Hi chess friends! In today's video I'm going to show you how I study openings. You don't have to do this exact same thing to get better at chess. You know, there are many ways towards chess improvement, but this is something that works for me, and I thought I'd share it with everyone in case it inspires you. I've decided I want to get better at the Grunfeld defense. Right now, that's my main idea against the move 1d4, so if I want to improve as a player, I should probably know a little more theory about it. For all the beginning level players watching, I'd like to preface this by saying that when we do an opening study, we aren't trying to account for every possibility, because, you know, that would be impossible. Instead, we're going to try to have a response for the most likely ways our opponent will play against us, and I'll show you how to do that. You know, if they go off script, at least we'll have some knowledge of the general themes in our opening. So, to do this, I use lichess. It's not the only online service that offers this, but it's the one that works for me. So, we'll go to Study, and then we'll click My Studies. And let's create a new study. And we're going to call it Sprouts Grunfeld Study, if I can type. Alright, and we'll just keep everything to the default here. I'm going to leave it on listed. And we're going to do a chapter. Now, the Grunfeld is played from Black's perspective. So Black is we're going to use the black pieces for orientation, and we're going to choose interactive lesson, because I'm a dummy and the only way I can remember things is if I do an interactive lesson. And now we're going to click this book icon. It's already up here on my screen because I use it a lot, but this book icon opens up the lichess database. And this is really cool. This is like the secret to building out a study for whatever rating level you're at. We're going to click the cog in the corner, and this allows us to zero in on the average ratings that we're going to include. Basically, it's going to take all the players in these ranges and everything they play, and it's going to, well, it's going to show us what they play. So for me, I'm kind of in this range right here, but if you're, you know, a beginning player, you might want to set this down to maybe the 400,000, 1,200 region. And then, for the sake of this, I'm going to do Blitz, and I'm going to do Rapid games. I'm going to include those. Okay. So that gets us all started. Now let's make some moves. The Grunfeld begins with the move d4, knight to f6, c4, and then g6. And then finally, it's going to be knight to c3. And here, Black has to play, absolutely has to play d5 to enter the Grunfeld. So that's what we're going to do. From here, we're going to look at the lichess database for the most likely move from our opponent. C captures d5. Let's put it on the board. We see in 99% of games, Black's response is knight captures d5. Anything else, and White has a much better win percentage, so let's make the move. 81% of games continue with the move e4. And now we need to figure out our response. 97% of games have Black playing knight captures on c3. The reason it's so high is because this is a thematic continuation for the Grunfeld. Much of the pressure in the Grunfeld will come from our dark squared bishop that we'll end up placing on g7. It's going to pierce the board along the h8, a1 diagonal, so let's capture the knight. B captures c3. Now for our response. I want to look at the top two choices. So our top two choices are bishop g7 and c5. Both give us the same win percentages. The idea with c5 is that if our opponent plays d captures c5, their c-pawn is a sitting duck for our bishop, which forks the king and the rook. But that's not really possible yet because there's no bishop on g7. So for that reason, I think it makes more sense for us to play bishop g7 first. Now we see that there are two main options for White, and we're relatively likely to face each at some point. These should be separate lines that we investigate and prepare responses for. But for now, let's put in the top move. And remember, when I say top move, I'm not talking about the best move. I'm talking about what players in your selected range are most likely to play against you. It looks like players with Black are most likely to continue with c5, but castling, which is the second choice, has the same win percentage. I like castling here because king safety is important to me. And now knight e2 is overwhelmingly going to be likely from our opponent. And now at this point, now that our king is safe, I really like the move c5, applying some pressure to the center of the board. White castles here in 61% of the games. Now we have to make another decision. It looks like queen c7 here gives us slightly better odds, but knight c6 is the top engine and top player move. For that reason, let's go with knight c6. And now bishop e3. And now look at this. If we play bishop g4, our odds of winning are better than white's. We're finally breaking through and making some progress. Let's put it on the board. Now this is a really interesting move because you might be wondering why would black do that? Obviously white's gonna play the move f3, right? And indeed, it's the follow-up in 99% of games, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. So why would we play it? If you look at the follow-up move here, we are going to let the bishop hang, and instead we're going to play knight a5, completely letting it hang and going after white's bishop. Now this is kind of a major positional advantage. The knight would love to be sitting on c4, and from c4 it can also go after the bishop on e3, forking the rook and the queen, so it's something that white has to take into consideration. Now white is most likely going to play bishop d3 and move it away. But the second most popular is bishop captures on f7 at 33% of games, and that's just wild that it's come to that at this point, that they're thinking about sacking their bishop, and that's one of the top moves. For now, though, we're going to go with the most played move. And now just look at the top move for black here. C captures d4, and now black's win rate goes up to 50% compared to white's 43%. After the dust settles, we play bishop to e6, saving the bishop and tempting white to play c4 to c5, going after our bishop and dropping their rook. And d5 is played 45% of the time, isn't that crazy? And that's it, we're done with this chapter. It's personal preference, but I only plan about 13 moves deep at most. It's enough to get us out of the opening phase, and with a strong understanding of some of the themes and ideas. But what about that point earlier where we noticed white's response branched, and there was another likely possibility? Time to create another chapter with the second most popular line. Okay, we have our second chapter, and everything's been entered leading up to white's response to bishop g7. This time we're going to go with knight f3 that occurred in 29% of games in our range. The interesting thing is that it doesn't look like the next move changes too much. But white's choice to place a knight on f3 at this point in time means that black's winning chances are higher according to the player database. So let's just castle. Bishop c4 from white, and now we'll play c5. White's top choice here is to castle. It's done in 58% of games at this rating level, and black has a 52% chance to win. Black's top choice here is knight c6, which makes a lot of sense, applying more pressure to d4, but look at the second choice. Bishop g4 is played less often, but it's better for black. Let's put it on the board. Bishop e3 is the popular response from our opponent, and now our response is a toss-up. Knight c6 is played in the most games, and immediate c captures d4 is played less, but both options have the same win percentages. I like knight c6 because it develops and adds pressure. White will most likely take up more space with the move d4 to d5. And it's tempting to play bishop to f3, but our chances are much better playing knight to e5. Bishop e2 is the overwhelming response. And now it looks like we should play knight captures on f3, bishop captures on f3, bishop captures on f3, queen captures on f3. And that's going to do it for the chapter. If we look, our next move is most likely going to be picking off the pawn here on c3. And we made it out of the opening unscathed. And now let's go back and practice these lines. We'll go back to the first chapter, and then we'll click the preview button. And now we're playing through the moves. I really love studying this way. I'm able to practice the lines and grow my knowledge of the opening. And, you know, are the lines you're studying going to come up in every game? Well, no, sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. And sometimes your opponents will deviate. And that's okay. And in many cases, you'll play with more confidence because you put in the homework, where most likely your opponent hasn't. And if a bunch of opponents are playing a line that you haven't prepared for, well, all you have to do is add it to your study. And you can add studies for absolutely anything. Here's a study that I made for the panda attack, which is part of the Karo Khan. It's just this vicious, vicious attack with so many, like, hidden dangers for your opponent. Like right now, they play a really normal-looking move like bishop to g4, but this just loses the game right on the spot. It's just incredible how much of a difference this can make in your game when you have a little bit of an idea about what to do. And this entire sequence that I figured out, no one told me this. It all came from using the study tools on lichess and looking at the player databases. So hopefully this video has given you some ideas for how you can improve your chess. I would love to hear your feedback if you end up trying these methods out for yourself. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!